Hello everybody, and welcome back to Certified Collectibles. Thank you for joining us today on our Halloween special edition in our must-haves video series. This series focuses on pop culture related collectibles that we believe have long-term investment potential. Today we're going to be looking at some Wata certified video games, specifically for the Nintendo Entertainment System, and more specifically, horror titles, since this is our Halloween special. So we selected 5 games for today's video. We do have an honorable mention game at the end, so there is a little special treat if you stick around to the end. There will be a 6th game that we're going to show you guys. But we think you should focus on the first 5 for your long-term investment portfolio. So we do have 5, so let's go ahead and get started. We're actually going to present these in the order that they were released to the general public, so as to remove any bias on our side. So the first game is from 1988. We have here Dr. Chaos. Now this game was released in 1987 for the Nintendo Famicom system in Japan, came over to the US in 1988, but was never advertised until 1990. Now, we were just coming out of the video game crash of the early 80s. Advertisement is what put games in people's hands. So if you're not going to advertise a game, it's going to go very undersold. And that's why we selected this particular game for our video today. This game was undersold in its first few years of production. As you can see, this is the oval seal. There's also a circle seal. Either one of these is great to add to your collection, but you definitely want to stick in high grade on this, the highest grade you can find. As you can see, this is a 9.4A. This is probably the lowest you want to go. 9.4, 9.6, 9.8 is definitely what you want to add to your long-term investment portfolio. Now, this game here became a cult classic over the years. Very familiar gameplay for a lot of people that grew up playing the horror genre games from the Nintendo Entertainment System. Very sought after today. There are a few copies of these that pop up on the market, but not many. I think we've seen 2 or 3 over the past few years in any grade over a 9.2. So this is one we do think has some long-term investment potential. This is one we do think you should consider adding to your collection. So our first game is Dr. Chaos from 1988. Now let's go ahead and jump to 1991. That seems to be the year a lot of these games came out. Seems to be a good year for the horror genre. So let's start with the Mac Daddy of all the horror games, Zombie Nation. Now this game, if you recognize it, is considered one of the top 10 rarest games for the Nintendo Entertainment System across all games, not just the horror genre. So this is one of the top 10 rarest games for the system. Because of that, as you can see, this is a 7.0 B+. We never recommend anything under an A seal, but a B+ seal on a game this rare, we'll take that, Anything that's super rare that's in the top 10 rarest games, a B seal, B+ seal is fine. C seals you might want to stay away from. Maybe a C+ is okay, but a B seal is going to be great. Like I said, this 7.0, we usually don't go that low either, but this is a nice high mid-grade copy with a pretty decent seal rating. So we do think this here has great potential going forward. If you can find this game, add this one to your collection. Now this is a side-scrolling shoot 'em up. Like I said, it is one of the top 10 rarest games of all time, but has a very, very strong cult following. If you were trying to think, hey, what was that game that I played as a child where I was a floating samurai head, disembodied, that shot lasers out of my eyes and spit some explosive vomit on my enemies? That's this game here. It has a very bizarre gameplay concept where you're just a floating samurai head that floats around and fights, but critics and fans praise this game. It became very sought after, became a cult classic, one that has a lot of attention, a lot of people after it. So this is one with the rarity and the popularity. We do think this is one you should add to your long-term investment portfolio. Zombie Nation. A mid-grade and B seal is fine for this game. This is very tough to find sealed. It's tough to find complete box, but sealed is impossible. All right, 1991. Doesn't get any more Halloween special edition than this. Frankenstein, The Monster Returns. Now this is a side-scrolling platformer with beat-em-up elements. This follows along any Frankenstein movie. Frankenstein terrorizes a village, captures a maiden. You play a swordsman that has to go destroy his supernatural army, save the maiden, and save the world from Frankenstein's monster. So this game here, as you can see, I can't see. As you can see, this is a 9.6 A++. This game here, collectors have told us they've had a hard time finding this, both complete and sealed. So it's not anywhere near as difficult as Zombie Nation, but it's tough to find at this game. So there are copies that pop up here and there, but not high grade. In this game, you want to stick with 9.6 or higher, 9.6, 9.8. We do think this one here has some great long-term investment potential. There's people that collect just the horror genre of games. And, Frankenstein is a classic horror creature, horror monster. So this is one that people do collect for their horror genre collection. So this is one we do think has some legs. Great game to add to your long-term investment portfolio. 9.6 should not cost you too much right now. This is being filmed in October of 2020. You can probably get a nice 9.6 copy for between $1,000 and $2,000 in there somewhere. Prices, of course, fluctuate depending upon who's looking for it at the time. But this is one we do think you should consider adding to your long-term investment portfolio. Frankenstein, The Monster Returns. Okay, our last 1991 game. So let me move this out of the way. Is Uninvited. Like I said, this is 1991 as well. This here became a cult classic when it was released, and actually many years later, people really started gravitating back to this game. This here is a 9.4A. Now, this follows the story of a character, and he wakes up in front of a mansion after a car crash. His sister's vanished, and he has to go search around the mansion for her. So you have to solve some riddles and some puzzles and look for clues to find out what happened to your older sister. This game here, there are a couple copies that are floating around. You can find them every once in a while. So this game here should not cost you a lot right now. If you're looking for this game in a nice 9.4 or higher, we do recommend probably a 9.6 or higher for this. A 9.4 is okay. A 9.4 should not cost you over $1,000 right as of today. But 9.6, 9.8 would definitely be better. But 9.4, if you pay the right price, is still a great game to add to your long-term investment portfolio. This game here, like I said, kind of became a cult classic. It's based off the 1986 Macintosh game, the point-and-click game. Nintendo toned down a lot of the graphic text and took out a lot of the occult references when they ported it over. So they kind of censored it down to make it a little bit more of a family-friendly horror game. But this is one that people do know, people do recognize, and people are after for their collection. So in high grade, this is one we do think you should add to your long-term investment portfolio. Okay. Oh, let's jump ahead to 1993. Our only game for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, Zombies Ate My Neighbors. Now, this is a run and gun. This is a 9.6 A+. This game here, you definitely want to stay 9.6 or 9.8. There are quite a few copies out there. We see these popping up quite frequently. They're always going to be $1,000-ish, around that range, $800 to $1,500. We've kind of seen them bouncing around that range depending upon the auction house that's presenting them and who's looking for it at the time. But this game here is very cool, one that everybody recognizes as a title. Actually, in 2011, they were going to make a movie of this, but I guess financing fell through and the movie never happened. But this game here does exist in Sega version as well. The Super Nintendo Entertainment System version is the one that people seem to be going after, though. So focus on this one for your collection, for your long-term investment portfolio. But this game here, Nintendo, this is before the ESRB rating system, so Nintendo actually wanted to make less violent games than were on the market, so they actually changed all the blood in this game to like a purple ooze. And our European counterparts, I guess, opposed the name Zombies Ate My Neighbors, so they just changed it down to Zombies when it was released in Europe. I guess they didn't want zombies to eat their particular neighbors. So this game here had a little bit of controversy surrounding it. Very, very popular title, one that everybody remembers, everybody recognizes. So this one here is a great game to add to your long-term investment portfolio. Get in at the right entry point, though. Don't overpay for this game right now. These are still out there, but all this material is being absorbed by people's collections. So you got to get in early on all these games. The earlier you get in, the better price you're going to pay for some of these. So that's definitely one to consider for your long-term investment portfolio. Now we have our honorable mention game that I promised you guys at the beginning of the video. Released in 1989, Friday the 13th. Now the reason this gets honorable mention is because there are quite a few of these copies floating around out there. We see these pop up more frequently than any of the other titles. This here is a 9.4 A+. We do probably recommend a 9.6, 9.8 on this game. There are quite a few copies out there. We got this game cheap many years ago, so we're happy with our entry point on this particular game. There's still a lot of legs for this one, but in today's market, you want to stay at 9.6 or 9.8. Now, the reason that we selected this for our honorable mention and not our long-term investment portfolio collection is because of the amount of copies that we do see pop up. I mean, we don't see hundreds, but we have seen probably 10 over the past 2 years, which is considerably more than any of these other titles. But this is a great collector's item, and that's why we included it. It has Jason Voorhees here on the front, some sort of weird techno neon haze behind him, super 80s looking cover, appeals great to collectors. Collectors love this game because it's so 80s looking. Also, this game was developed by Atlas, and if you are familiar with any of the Atlas games have a huge collector base, a huge fan base. People love the Atlas video games. Some people just collect the Atlas titles alone. So, being that this was actually developed by Atlas for Nintendo is a great plus for this particular game. Also, this was distributed by LJN Toys. If you collect any of the action figure toy lines, or if you know the LJN brand, they produce and distribute some of the most iconic action figures of the 80s, like the Thundercats toy line, for instance. Those action figures are still hugely sought after, very expensive in today's market. So the fact that LJN had a part of this, Atlas had a part of this, and is such an 80s title, this is why we selected it for our honorable mention. It's a great collector item. We don't know the long-term potential of this because there are quite a few copies that seems to be out there, but it's one to consider adding to your collection. If you get in at the right price, definitely throw it in your long-term investment portfolio. So those are our 5 games and honorable mention that we selected for today's Halloween special edition in our must-haves video series. Please let us know what you think of our selection today. Drop us some comments in the comment section below. Let us know if you guys have your own selection. We'd love to hear about it. Give us a thumbs up if you like the video. And as always, please remember to subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thank you for joining us here at Certified Collectibles, and we'll see you again next time.